Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MTG Brewery. Josh here with his blue-black control deck. Normally the kind of deck host like a Dimir would play, but I decided to brew up a control deck this week.
Staple.
So we will go ahead and go on with the deck. We're going to start off with the main win condition of the deck, 4 Prognostic Sphinx. This card is so good right now. White control decks aren't super popular.
Just for me.
Except for you. So, and also, this is the only really good answer to this card, since there's no more good edicts post-rotation. Devour Flesh is not a player anymore. The only other one I can think of that's relevant is Ultimating Sorin, or the 9-mana Delve one. But the 9-mana Delve one's probably not going to see too much play, as it's 9 mana, even with Delve. There is 4 Prognostic Sphinx in the deck. Once again, they're our main win condition. Super hard to kill. 3/5. It dodges the minus on an Elspeth and will block pretty much everything in the format and live. It survives most single burn spells. And on top of that, you can give it hexproof by discarding a card and tapping it. The main reason this card is so good is when it attacks you, scry 3. This can pull you out of many losing games, as I have done that, where all I've had to do was attack with Prognostic Sphinx twice, and I've pulled myself out of a losing game and won the game.
Even when I had like 4 Planeswalkers.
Yeah, Prognostic Sphinx is so good.
It's ridiculous.
We have also 2 Return Phalanx, just kind of for the aggressive decks, as well as just a fine turn to play. I think this card's really underrated. It's a 2-mana 3/3. Defender, you can make it attack by paying 2 mana. It's mainly the fact that it's a blocker early against aggressive decks. We need some 2-drops in the deck to help not die to them. It's very good, though, against control decks. It's an early play. It can attack through the Sylvan Caryatid. This, as an early play, it's also just something we can put our mana into early if we don't want to have a Divination. Thoughtseize, something to just do early, and we don't really want to hold it counter magic. We can just attack 3 through a Sylvan Caryatid and give them some early damage. So that's very good. Also, 2 Woman Speaker, once again, just for the aggressive decks. It's a 1/3, so it blocks things like Fire Drink Satyr or Crone Crusader, Fire Drink Satyr Hoplite, Foundry Street Denizen. It blocks all of these early, and will kill them. It blocks a Goblin Rob Master token and kills it. Being 3 toughness, it's not a Lightning Strike, but it can also stay alive against a lot of the creatures a mono red deck can throw at you. As well, it just kind of helps set up your draw by being able to scry to it. You can help facilitate hitting land drops. Even though there's 26 lands, you can still have problems hitting your land drops, as I often seem to have. There's 1 Read the Bones and 4 Divination, just as a turn 3 draw spell. We needed these in the deck. There's no massive draw spell, so we're playing a high density of draw spells now.
Why don't you just play Font?
And these are just some early ones. They've been very well for me. The 1 Read the Bones, I wish you could play more, but against your decks, it's just so bad to lose to life and taking up your whole turn 3. If you've also done nothing on turn 2, they'll just steamroll you if you play too many Read the Bones. So we're playing 1 for now, and then 4 Divinations. There's also 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Despise in the main deck. I'm just testing which one I like more.
Be honest. I'm the Despise person.
I haven't really found any difference so far against the decks I've been testing, because they're pretty much like the same decks, a bunch of creatures with some spells, and I'm almost always just taking a creature with Thoughtseize or Despise, or a Planeswalker in Koseki number 2's case.
Hey now.
Our only other win condition in the deck, other than theoretical beating down with Omen Speakers and Return Phalanx, which can happen. I kill people with Augur of Volus. I can probably kill someone with Omen Speakers. There is an Empty the Pits. Such a good card. It's very similar to
So much mana.
the old black one.
Into the
Innistrad. No. Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead.
I played that card a lot. That was one of my
the
favorite
song,
cards.
shut
I
up.
built so many Grixis decks with that. This card definitely is a card I wanted to play.
You know what deck I hated?
And this deck was perfect. This is slow, grindy. It does a lot of killing and countering, answering your opponent's cards. So being able to ditch all those cards to make X-2/2s, so good. I love this card so much. And this card's still just a good card, so you could play it in any other deck.
Now, you know what the best part, Josh? You didn't mention it. It's an instant speed.
And it's an instant. That's why we're playing.
Huge deal.
We also have 1 Dig Through Time in the deck. Once again, we didn't want too many. Being 8 mana, even with Delve, can be kind of clunky sometimes. But so powerful, we definitely wanted to have access to 1. I've hardcast this, as you guys will see on the Versus videos. I've hardcast this for 8 because it was better than to delve any cards, because also it empty the pits in my hand. But there's also been times I've cast this for 2 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana, and 3 mana. So this card is just a overall very powerful card. Getting to look at the top 7 and put 2 of them into your hand, the rest in the bottom is very good. Especially with fetch lands in Standard, it just helps fuel your delve a little more. If you build a bugged version of this deck, which I want to, the main deck card, the only main deck cards I found so far I want are Sultai Ascendancy and Sultai Charm and Gaze of Granite. This fits very well into a deck like that, where you're kind of just milling yourself with your Sultai Ascendancies and just casting spells over time. One Aether Spout kind of as the Wrath in this deck, is there's not really a Wrath. We're relying on a mass density of removal spells. Aether Spout is very good. Against a deck like Planeswalker tokens, like the Kozak and Crew is playing, it kills the tokens because they're not going to be coming back. Against mid-range decks, it takes up a bunch of their turns and makes them reset themselves, which is pretty much all you need. Mid-range decks aren't hard for this deck to beat anyway, just because they're slow and you can answer all their threats. But against aggressive decks, this can set them back so many turns and put you so far ahead. It's kind of a catch-up you would need to beat an aggressive deck if you don't have something like a Prognath Sphinx on turn 5 after playing removal spell, and 2-drop. This can catch you up. 3, Jason's Ingenuity, just kind of some more draw. Drawing 3 cards, 5 mana, instant speed. It's not quite as good as Sphinx's Revelation, but this card is still really good, so we definitely wanted some, just to kind of fuel our more mass density draw spells. It also makes Prognath Sphinx much better. You scry 3 at the end of your opponent's turn. You Jason's Ingenuity and you drew the 3 cards you scried, if you wanted to keep all 3. If not, you drew what you scried and some cards you didn't know. There's also 4 Silence of Believers. We're probably actually going to end up cutting down on 2 of them, but I started out with 4 and I've been really happy with them. They're only really bad against aggressive decks being at 4 mana, but against other decks they've served very well. They get rid of auras attached to them, which can be very relevant with Bestow and Standard. If you go up against any heroic deck, they're probably playing auras also. And having Strive, being able to exile more than one thing, has been a huge deal in my testing with this card, and I have loved it. There's 4 Dissolves, just kind of the go-to counterspell in main decks for blue decks, probably in the upcoming Standard, outside of like the Jeskai Tempo deck. But being able to counter anything and then Scry 1's going to be very good. Very much enjoyed this card, and I have more counterspells on the sideboard, but this is our only main deck one. We have 2 Hero's Downfall and 3 Bioblight as the rest of our removal spells. The Silence of Believers are probably going to become another Hero's Downfall and maybe another Bioblight or another Hero's Downfall, just kind of depending on how my testing goes. You need Bioblight for the aggressive decks. It's a 2-drop removal spell. It can kill multiple creatures. Against Elspeth, it can kill all the tokens they've made, which can be very relevant. Hero's Downfall kills Planeswalkers, which is a huge deal. Not too many answers to them outside of countering them and disrupting them from the hand. But it also kills creatures, so it makes it very good. It's not an Utter End, but it is also not in our colors. Utter End is not, and costs 1 less mana. So that's why we're playing it. And then our mana base is quite simple. It's 4 Polluted Delta, 2 Temple of Deceit, 4 Dismal Blackwater, a bunch of swamps and an Orberg, and then a bunch of islands. We might end up cutting 3 swamps for another Urberg and 2 Temple of Deceit. Urberg has helped facilitate, being able to cast Bioblight on turn 2 sometimes, being able to cast a Silence of Believers. Well, we only have 2 islands for multiple things. Just kind of a nice card to have. Allows you to play multiple hand disrupt spells on turn 2 if you only have like a bunch of islands. Just kind of makes your splash a little easier to cast.
That one time when you have 5 islands and 1 Urborg.
And it makes Empty the Pits so much easier to cast if you're kind of stumbling on hitting that 4th black source. So Urberg's definitely served a huge role in this deck, and I very much enjoy it. So there's our main deck, and I'll see you here in a second for the sideboard. Hey guys, welcome back to the sideboard of the blue-black control deck, and we're going to get right into it. We're going to start off with just another threat, and Pearl Lake Ancient. Against control decks, an uncounterable 6/7 flash is going to be very good. It can also bounce to our hand by returning 3 lands. You can bounce Scry lands, you can bounce Game Life lands. Just kind of some utility there. Plus, it's uncounterable and really hard to kill. So against control decks, it's going to be able to kill them very quickly. Also, it's prowess, which can, I guess, sometimes be relevant. But it's a 6/7, so it's going to be a very fast clock. We also have 2 Clever Impersonator. This is for decks like Super Friends, if those are going to be popular decks. Or against just mid-range decks like the Siege Rhinos, Courser of Crewfix, Polychronos, just mid-range value decks. Against decks like those, while we're killing everything, we can kill everything but the thing we want to copy. Play Clever Impersonator, copy it, and then kill their thing. Clever Impersonator is just kind of a nice utility card to have in our sideboard. We may not want 2, but for now I've been playing with 2 and I've enjoyed it. We have 1 Siren of the Silent Song. This is for the control decks. A lot of control decks, if there are going to be any in the format, won't really keep in a ton of spot removal. because they don't work on Prognostic Sphinx. They'll mainly be keeping in Wraths. This is a way to pressure them. It's a cheap 2-1 flyer, so it's not terribly fast, but it's also not super slow. It's also going to be making them discard cards at the same time, which is going to be big. It flies over Elspeth tokens at that point. It can kill an Elspeth relatively quickly, while we can buy up like tokens. And the main thing about this is Inspired. They mill one, but they discard a card. So pressuring our opponent's hand, especially post-board when we got to bring in more counter spells and more hand disruption, this is going to get a lot better. These are 2 Drowning Stars. They are in the mail, guys. Once, like a bunch of the cards, like the 1 Polluted Delta I need and the 2 Drowning Stars, they're all in the mail. In a way, so I went ahead and decided to play this deck for y'all, so you guys could see it. Drowning Stars is mainly for the Rabble Red matchup, or any other kind of Rabble Red type deck that's going to be around. You need that, really. A turn 3 Wrath against them can be a huge deal, especially when you're in the draw. On the play, you can only wait till turn 4, but you really need to be able to stop Goblin Rare Master, its tokens, and everything they've played beforehand early, so you can stabilize. We also have the other 3 Thoughtseize to kind of fill out the hand disruption. So we have 5 hand disruption spells against control decks and mid-range decks post-board. Thoughtseize is just a really good catch-all card. Can stop it from ever hitting the board, which can be a huge deal. We also have 1 more Aether Spout, just for those creature decks, mid-range and aggressive decks. I didn't want too many against control decks because it just wouldn't do anything. But it is such a blowout that sometimes you just want another one. And then we have 5 more cards. 4 Negates and a Dissipate, just some counter spells. Against a mid-range deck, you're going to bring in the Dissipate. Against control deck, you're going to bring in all the Negates and the Dissipate. And then against something like Jeskai Tempo, you probably want to bring in some number of Negates, because they're mainly going to be killing you with burn spells. Well, you keep in your answers for the Mantis Riders, and you pray they don't resolve an Narset. So there's the sideboard, guys. Like normal, pretty quick, pretty clean. It might get changed up over time. 4 Negates may be a little too much, but the meta hasn't really done too much yet. There's only 2 big decks outside of, like, you know, the Rabble decks. There's the Junk Midrange deck, the Jeskai Tempo deck, and then there was that Mardu deck, but I don't know if too many people are playing that, so if that's a thing, we might have to change up our deck a little. But for now, this is the 75 I've decided to play with, and we'll see how that goes continuing on the standard. There will be an article on this sometime in the near future on mtgbrodeals.com. Also, there is a bill they need to pay, but they don't quite have the money for it. It's only $150. They have a donate button, so if you guys have enjoyed their content over the past year, please go donate to them so they can keep running the website. If they do hit the 115, they will improve the website. They will do a lot better job, they have said. And I believe them, as I write for them. A great crowd over there, so I'd love to keep writing for them, and I'd love to see them continue to run the website. So please go check that out and see if you would like to donate. You can find us on Twitter, at Pearsallsblog. You can subscribe to our YouTube on the subscribe button while you're watching this video. And you can email us, pearsallsblog@yahoo.com. So please, go check all those things out. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.